Alright, the third episode of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power Season 1 has dropped on Amazon Prime Video, so now I talk about it with spoilers. That is a spoiler warning. If you have not yet seen this third episode titled Adar, then you should probably turn this video off because I will be talking about the events that occur in this episode. Unless you don't care, in which case, stick around, I'm flattered. Alright, so let's get started here, because this episode, oh my god. I know it starts out with Arondir in the orc camp, I'll get to that, but first and foremost, I have got to talk about Númenor, because holy shit. So yeah, Galadriel and Halbrand, they're on this ship with this crew of men, and they arrive at the island kingdom of Númenor, and oh my god, just look at the size of this place. There's that shot where it just shows this vast expanse that is the island kingdom of Númenor. I was just in awe. My jaw was on the floor. This kingdom is enormous. No, it's gargantuan. Yeah, now you're like, oh, okay, yeah, so this is where all that budget went. Yeah, now I see why it is the most expensive show ever made, because holy god. I mean it, dude. Like, the first time I watched this episode, it was on my big screen TV, and I was like, it's so beautiful. And actually, you notice that main castle, it does have that precipice that kind of sticks out, which is not unlike how Minas Tirith looked in the Peter Jackson movies. Yeah, there is a similarity, complete with the white tree. It must be a Númenorian thing, I guess. And so, yeah, for a kingdom this vast, I'm pretty sure we're going to be spending a lot of time here throughout the entire series. Like, I imagine Númenor is going to be a really key part of this entire story. And of course, one of the biggest reasons for that is the fact that we are introduced to some pretty important new characters here in Númenor. But alright, first of all, the kingdom is currently being ruled by the Queen Regent Miriel. And I love the scene where she's introduced. Galadriel shows up with Halbrand and everyone's like, oh shit, it's an elf. Miriel is standing there so poised and badass in stature, and she just says, speak, elf. That stern look on her face, I was like, damn, alright, she is not messing around. She seems pretty fit to rule in my book. And we do hear Galadriel explain that in the past, Númenor was kind to the elves. In fact, the elves granted men this island in the first place. But now, for some reason we don't know yet, it seems like they've turned against elves. I guess there hasn't been an elf here in Númenor in a long time. All Galadriel wants is a ship to go to Middle-earth, since, she turned back from Valinor and she's going back after Sauron. She's not planning on being here for long. But while we are here, we meet the important characters. Here we go. First off, Elendil, we know that name. Elendil is the king, like the king of men, when they fight against Sauron in the last alliance of men and elves. You know, that big climactic war that I'm pretty sure the series is leading to? We all know the story. It was Isildur, son of the king, who cut the One Ring from Sauron's hand. And so now we actually meet these people, Elendil and his son Isildur. And we also learn that he has a sister, Eärien, and a brother, whose name I forget because we don't meet him in this episode. But just meeting these characters, Elendil, Isildur, Eärien, and knowing how important and pivotal to the history of Middle-earth itself they're going to be, I couldn't help but be like, holy shit, alright, we're actually going to get to know these characters as people. That's awesome, and Elendil in particular, he's a badass, totally. The way he carries himself, he does have that kind of kingly demeanor. He has that deep voice, he's like, I am a loyal servant of Númenor. He knows how to speak Elvish. And then, after some thought, I was like, holy shit, wait, these are the Dunedain. The people of Númenor, they were the ones who were blessed with longer lifespans. And this family in particular, Elendil and Isildur, Eärien, and the brother, they are the ancestors of Aragorn. Yeah. So after this episode, Elendil has become another one of my favorite characters. Because he just exudes royalty. He's not a king right now, he's just a sea captain. But I imagine over the course of the series, he will be promoted to King of Men. Can't wait to see how that happens. Another thing in this episode that blew my freaking mind. There's that scene where Galadriel and Elendil are in that Hall of Lore with all the scrolls. And we learn that Sauron's sigil, that's not actually a sigil, it's not a symbol. It's a map. It's a map of the mountains of the Southlands. Now, I remember some people were saying, oh yeah, the Southlands, those mountains, that's where Mordor is in the Third Age. And I was like, alright, so what? Will it eventually become Mordor or something? It turns out, yeah. Galadriel finds this, ancient text, this black speech that speaks of a plan in the event of Morgoth's defeat to transform the Southlands into a realm of evil. I was like, Mordor! Holy shit, alright, so, Mordor in this show is not even Mordor yet. It's just known as the Southlands, but the people who live there, their ancestors, yeah, they were servants of Morgoth, so I guess it does make sense. There has been evil in that realm before, so yeah. Again, just seeing this and knowing where it's going, I was so in awe. So yeah, I guess we better enjoy our time in the Southlands while they are still the Southlands. Cause before we know it, there's gonna be a big old tower called Barad-dûr, with Mount Doom right nearby spewing up hot ash, and the very air you breathe is gonna be a poisonous fume. Yeah, sorry Bronwyn, but you're probably fucked. So alright, so far in this awesome episode we have the introduction of Elendil and the soon-to-be royal line. We have the reveal that the Southlands will eventually become Mordor. That's 2 bits of mind-blowing information, but we are not done yet. Cause later on, Halbrand's gotten himself into trouble, and so he's rotting in a jail cell. Galadriel goes to visit him, and it turns out, yeah, that sigil that he's wearing around his neck, she did some research on it while she was at that Hall of Lore. And I guess it turns out that Halbrand is pretty much the Aragorn of this series. I guess he is supposed to be the king of men in the Southlands. But for whatever reason, he chose to abandon that life. He's like, nope, I don't want that. The Southlands have no king. The funniest thing about this reveal, to me anyway, is that the guy who plays Halbrand, at least in this scene, he does look a lot like Viggo Mortensen. Just in the face. Can you see it? Actually, I'm gonna look up that actor's name right now, just out of curiosity. Charlie Vickers. Charlie Vickers looks a lot like Viggo Mortensen, in my opinion. With that hair and those eyes. You see it, right? And so I'm guessing over the course of this series, there's gonna be a whole, redemption arc, like Aragorn in Lord of the Rings. I imagine Halbrand here will eventually step up and lead the men of the Southlands or something, I don't know. I read a theory that maybe Halbrand will eventually become that leader of the dead army. Like, he'll be the one who betrays Isildur. To which I was like, yeah, that's entirely possible. That'd be really interesting, actually. I can kind of see him doing that, given his behaviors and his history. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Alright, so I guess I've covered everything in Númenor for this episode. Now I'll touch on the Harfoots, because honestly, the Harfoot story in this episode is the one I didn't really care for. And I think it's because there wasn't really much elevation. Not much really happened with the Harfoots. I mean, they're migrating. The stranger is revealed to the entire community, and so Nori gets kind of shunned, but they're like, alright, you can stick around, you're just a kid. And so now the Harfoots are migrating, and the stranger is tagging along with them. Alright, that's pretty much all that happens in this episode for them. Now I'll touch on Arondir in the orc camp, because there are also some pretty cool things that happen here. So yeah, Arondir finds himself enslaved in this orc camp with a couple of his elf friends, and I will say though, that scene where that one orc kills his friend, and he dies and Arondir is crying, that's really the first scene in the entire series where we get to see some emotion out of Arondir. And I felt that. The choir's kicking on, I was like, dude, shit, that sucks for you, dude. And so they're like, alright, we're gonna get the fuck out of here. And man, when they attempt to break out, man, they got some skills. This was so badass. That Arondir, man, I told you, I was looking forward to seeing his skills in action. This is why. The part where he's running on the chains and he brings down that roof and exposes the sunlight to the orcs. Awesome. And then later on, when he goes off the tree, he goes, and lunges at that orc. Yeah, Arondir, man, he's got some moves. Yep, he's still one of my favorite characters. Although, unfortunately, they don't make it out. His other elf friend, he does get out, but then he dies because he's shot up with arrows. That sucks. And also, that warg, dude. First off, this thing is nasty looking. This is like a warg from the films mixed with a clown or something. Or a hyena. It's got the crazy eyes. And I'll tell you what, the way it, tears up a couple of those elven prisoners, I was like, that's brutal. Seriously, you see a couple of those people just straight up getting eaten. I was like, that is the most violent thing I've ever seen in Lord of the Rings yet. In any visual Lord of the Rings media. Oh, actually, you know what? That's not true. Hobbit Battle of the Five Armies extended cut, that's rated R. That had some pretty violent stuff. But alright, this is up there though. And it is still pretty damn brutal. Eventually, the warg is taken care of. And that's when Arondir's friend gets shot up with arrows and dies. And so the last thing that happens in this episode is that Arondir is dragged back into the camp. And the orcs are like, Adar, Adar. And we see this figure approaching. We heard them saying earlier how Adar might be one of the names that Sauron gave himself. So this figure approaching, oh, I don't know, is it Sauron? I don't know. I'm thinking it probably isn't. It's probably just some high orc or something. But what do I know? It could be Sauron for all I know. Guess we'll find out next week. So yeah, in the end, I thought this third episode of Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power Season 1 was awesome. I love seeing Númenor for the first time. My god, I'm still not over how vast and just glorious this place looks. Elendil's a badass. Isildur, I'm sure we're gonna be rooting for him as the underdog-ish kind of character. I'm sure Arondir's gonna turn out okay. He'll get out of that camp soon enough. And here's hoping that the Harfoots have a more interesting story in the next episode. And also, here's hoping that we see more of Khazad-dûm and the dwarves in the next episode, because we didn't see them at all here. I was hoping to touch on them more here. Oh well. Hopefully next week. So, the third episode of The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power Season 1, titled Adar. Have you watched it yet? What are your thoughts on it? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Peace!